So Brian Tamaki has been raising his lizard-like little head again. The most heterosexual man with the best eyebrows we've ever seen. He has been decided once again to attack part of the rainbow community, and the drag community is something he has seemed to get his little claws into at the moment. Joining us from that community is Sunita Torrance, otherwise known as CoCo, part of Erica Flash and CoCo. I always get this the wrong way around, Sunita. Drag queen story time. I will keep going drag time story queen. Story queen's not
Well,
bad.
we've actually trademarked the name Rainbow Storytime in order to protect our branding. But yeah, you can have drag story hour or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, for sure.
And we are now looking at a picture of the hideous crime that Brian Tamaki is telling us about being perpetrated on these children of two people in dress-up costumes reading stories. Dun, dun, dun.
It is abhorrent, isn't it?
I know. It's very, very strange. I mean, the other thing that's it's always a bit bizarre about this conversation is that how long has the whole community, whether you're conservative or liberal or religious or not, enjoyed drag in the forms of Mrs. Doubtfire or Tootsie, or you know, going to the in the UK where they put on panto and men get dressed up as girls. And I did a Carol, I think it's Carol Churchill play back where I actually played the role of a 5-year-old girl. But this is one step too far. People dressed up as drag reading stories.
Absolutely.
And you have decided to take, we'll figure out exactly who, but part of this group to court seeking defamation case against them to the value of $2 million, I believe. Explain that to us.
Yeah. So $2 million plus costs it is. So basically we are taking on Brian Tamaki himself. We're taking on Destiny Church as a board, I guess, and then several of his pastors in different areas and other members of his church.
Do you think that this is because me and Chewy talked about this last night, because like Family First, for example, they lost their charitable status because they were deemed to be political. When Brian Tamaki seems to be political, he seems to be very clear under his Brian Tamaki label, not the Destiny label. And so we had a bit of a debate. How do you, even though we all know, how do you legally link those two things? Do you think this is a Destiny Church initiative or is it a Brian Tamaki initiative?
It's a very blurry line, to be honest, because like he gets his disciples together to decide, have meetings about how to take action against us and other people. So that becomes a Destiny Church thing, doesn't it? Because his employees or whatever are involved, and then all of the actual board members of Destiny Church need to okay all of his stuff that goes online for under the Destiny Church label. So it becomes a them problem.
So even if it's under the Brian Tamaki, say, Twitter feed, are you saying the board typically has to sign off on that as well if it's kind of political or commentary?
Don't know so much if it's in his Brian Tamaki Twitter feed, but a lot of things are actually coming through on the Destiny Church Spotify, and that's an official Spotify, so sermons. So yeah, so that's a lot of where we're getting some of this information from.
You've been generous enough to give us some time, sort of mid-afternoon today. This is now evening that people are watching this. There's just been a release by Brian Tamaki, not the good kind of release, but a press release, which we'll get to in a second. But first of all, part of your claim is 16 defamation. 16 times they've defamed you guys. Can you give us an example of the kinds of things you're referencing as defamation?
So, I mean, there is just blatant, these people are pedophiles. Sunita Torrance and Daniel Lockett are pedophiles and child groomers, blah, 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 those sorts of things. And just those sorts of things are just outright, wow. Yeah. Saying, you know, we're sex workers and all that sort of stuff. We're, you know, we have friends in the industries and stuff, absolutely. And so it's not an offence as that, but it is a blatant lie against us individually and also our business as well.
Okay. That's actually a really interesting point. We debated is the wrong word, talked about this the other night, because I've always been particularly ponderous around why, for example, in a political situation, maybe you see it more in America, the conservative people would point to the liberal people and call them groomers and pedophiles. As you say, defamatory. Of course, in New Zealand, it's quite hard to reach a standard of being defamed because people can call on honest held belief. Do you think that their honest held belief is they're wrong, but their honest held belief is that? Or do you think they're just using the labels to create the kind of friction and headlines they want?
I think it's become that now. No matter how many times you try to tell them that drag art and being transgender is completely different, they don't get it. They have blurred it up so much that they believe it's all in the same. Yes, there are transgender people that do drag, but drag is an art form. It's a performance, whereas being transgender is a person. That is their identity. That is their being. And so they have just completely blurred the lines, and they continue to blur it, and they're not willing to learn or be educated, which is bizarre to me. I mean, this man stands there trying to demand that you listen to what he says and live by that, but he won't be willing to ever learn something from anybody else.
This man with pretty fantastic eyebrows. I mean, you got to give him at least some credit. He's got some. No, all right. No, you're the expert.
Wait till the 90s eyebrows come back, where they're like thin, like heavy stuff.
I guess all we're saying is it looks like he's had some work done on the eyebrows. That's all. He can pretty himself up, but maybe other people can't so much. Hey, I've got to really. I mean, we'll get to Brian Tamaki's response shortly, but he talks about R13, R18. We have these things in society. Just explain to me literally what happens at a story time.
All right, so if we're talking about a Rainbow Storytime, so this is for toddlers up, okay? So I come out first. I come out and I usually do a bit of a lip sync show. It's usually a popular song or a Disney song or something like that. And I come out, do all my bits, greet everybody, and then I read a fun book, which usually is a silly book. It's actually got no message to it whatsoever. And it just warms people up and, gets them yelling, because we're allowed to yell in that library when we're there. And then I will do another dance. I'll teach the kids a quick dance because I'm the disco queen. And they'll get up and do a dance. I'll then read a second story. And that will segue into me introducing Erica out. And Erica comes out and does another fabulous lip sync performance and reads 2 books. And it's tradition for us. We always end the show with Baby Shark.
Oh, do. That's okay. So you've just lost me as a supporter. That song being put back into kids' heads that then goes home.
Maybe that's what the problem is.
Hey, so here's the question, right? It's unquestionable that some drag performances at the right time in the right place are adult. You'd agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what you're saying is that this drag performance at the right time in the appropriate way is for children.
Absolutely. So just as Arnold Schwarzenegger can go from being the Terminator, he can also go in and being Kindergarten Cop. Just as Bruce Willis can go from Die Hard, he can go into Disney's The Kid. So it's about having range.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. Brian Tamaki should therefore be protesting actors who have spent their life working in R18, R16, R13 movies, who then go voice a character in a kid's movie. It's the same thing.
Absolutely. And the fact that he's going against characters as well, not necessarily the people, it's the characters he's really going for. So, seeing Chris Warner from Shortland Street walking down the street, I hate you for what you did to what's her name. So, it's a little bit.
Yeah. I'm also intrigued as to the legal process of it, because like I said, I think people get defamed all the time, especially at the moment. It feels like in that kind of political world of right versus left, or whatever the correct terminology is, authoritarian versus liberal, whatever. So talk to me about the actual causes, and excuse me for looking away, but I'm reading it off another screen. You've got the defamation claims, but you've also got breach of contract relating to contracts with local councils that were cancelled due to the actions of defendants, conspiracy to injure, and unlawful means conspiracy. Can you just expand those a little, just in a couple of minutes, expand those a little bit, what that aspect of it is?
Asking the wrong question. My lawyer needs to be here. But as far as I can tell, my business is being injured. So I've created a brand over the last 10 years. I have been very successful in lots of different shows and all sorts of things. And they have come down hard on my entire business and my source of income. So I solely work for myself. I contract myself out and do things do bits and pieces here and there, but it's usually through the business. And that's the injury side of things. My personal life and business life is being injured. The reputation of my business and myself is being injured. And that's the issue that we have. Cancelling contracts and all that sort of stuff is going to harm. It has harmed us. And, look what's happened with, Daniel / Erica now decided to move to London to get away from all of this. That's having a huge effect on my business, because he was my muse and my co-business partner. And everything we did together. And now I don't have him or that.
And he's leaving specifically because of all this harassment?
So, he was always going to go back and have a holiday to go see his dad. He hasn't seen him in 8 years. And then he was going to come back and move to Auckland. So we lived in New Plymouth. And that was always the plan, so that we could still continue to do everything we did. We had the Rocky Horror Picture Show is turning 50, so we had a huge tour. It's expected for that. And he plays Frankenfurter, so it's not like he's a bit role. And so now all of that's gone. That's all cancelled. And it seems anything that we put our name towards is getting abuse from the naysayers. And so every single little thing that I put my name to, that I put Haus of Flash to, is not feeling safe anymore.
Little side note, very excited to hear about Rocky Horror. I didn't realize it was quite that old. I've interviewed Richard O'Brien once, and it's just fascinating. That's really cool. Hey, you said in part of your interview or stand-up outside of the courts that there was a prominent member of Destiny who had sent particularly violent threats to you. Is it okay? Are you able to name that person, or does it have to stay a bit secret because of what's going on?
I'm actually not too sure.
Right.
Maybe after he's been served.
Okay.
So the serving side of things has to go on. So the application's still got to get done. And then we end up serving all of those members.
So rather than identifying him now by name, when you said outside the court a prominent member, do you mean we, the public, will know who this person is, or he's prominent within Destiny?
I would say within Destiny.
Okay.
He's one of the patched members. Yeah.
Okay, got that. Look, let's just spend 2 minutes now. Maybe you don't want to spend that much time thinking about Brian Tamaki, seeing that's all you're probably doing at the moment. Having a look at his press release. This is the press release that came out today.
Oh,
you haven't seen it? There you go.
Good one of me. No, I haven't seen any of this yet.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny how
I wanted
Dr. Frankenfurter.
Yeah. So everyone's in there. I just wanted to read out a part of it. I was going to ask you about the R13, R18 censorship, but we've already answered that. So I'll read you this bit. It says this, and I'll just let you respond to it. Say what you want. Take me to court. This ongoing protest action is necessary to protect our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Apparently the great-great-grandchildren go fuck themselves. So it's not enough getting the RSC, which is the religious, whatever it is, curriculum kicked out of our schools, but drag queens targeting toddlers in our libraries. This is the sick sexualization of our children, Tamaki added. I would suspect that probably in his press release, he's probably added to those defamatory statements. That
we did a bit of an addendum, I think.
A bit of a deep dive. You haven't seen it yet, obviously, but I'll just read you this bit as well. Tamaki called for a collective effort from concerned parents. That's like a what you call it, a wolf whistle, not a wolf whistle, whatever the whistle is, to conservative Christians in New Zealand, to address what he describes as the rainbow washing of politicians and the media, urging a nationwide movement to protect children from sexual predators and inappropriate content. Like we said, reading books to children, inappropriate content. Maybe he can't read. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just offended because he can't. Yeah. If there's ever a time to clean up all of this, if there's ever a time, he says, to clean up all of this rubbish, if you care about our children, now is the time to challenge all of these politicians, media, and transgenders, and clean up perversion and sexualization, yada, 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 yada. I know you haven't seen it. It's the first time you've read it. No, it always seems to come back to that. I mean, you haven't read it, so I can't really ask you to respond to it. But from what I've just kind of said to you then, you got any thoughts?
Oh, it's the same old, isn't it? You know, he's still just trying to keep himself in there, and, you know, he'll demand more media attention. It's all good. But we're coming for him. I'm sorry. It's not going to stop us.
I was going to ask you, is this something you... I was just going to ask you, is this something you're just kind of giving a crack, or if you had legal advice? And you obviously have had legal advice. And does your legal advice seem to point towards this as a pretty strong case? Because they'd normally give you some kind of idea.
Yeah, they think it's a bit of a home run. So it's absolutely blatant, the things that he's saying. And, you know, I don't know if many people have tried to take on Brian Tamaki, but right now he's messing with a 45-year-old menopausal drag queen who's kind of sick of everyone's shit. So, you know, I'm not in the right place right now.
Hey, I mean, like, if we can do anything to help, we'd be happy to. Where do people get a hold of you? Like, for example, if someone wanted to hold a story time in their district, how do they get a hold of you? So
we have all of the social medias and pages. So we've got a Rainbow Storytime New Zealand or Rainbow Storytime NZ Facebook page. We've got Instagram. Most of our social medias have now changed to the branding of Rainbow Storytime to get this movement going. So even on TikTok. So Haus of Flash Limited, Rainbow Storytime is all searchable. And of course, we've now got the new Give a Little page we already had one, and this is now the second Give a Little page, where we are looking to get help with the huge amount that's going to come out of this in regards to legal costs.
I actually, not to be clinical, I'm super excited to see what happens in the court with this, because I've always been fascinated, especially when it gets to a political season, about one side just defaming the other. And I've always gone, why hasn't you guys are doing this? This could set legal precedents in New Zealand. And at the same time, maybe shut up a fuckwit who is, you know, giving the country a bit of a headache and needs to be sat down, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, I've just binge watched Law and Order SVU, so I believe I'm going to go full on Detective Olivia Bennett right now. You know, it's like, this is it. Olivia Benson, here she is.
Brilliant. Sunita Torrance. Yeah. Hey, Sunita, thanks so much for joining us this evening as we watch this. Really appreciate your time and best of luck.
Thank you so much. It's much appreciated to have some support.